What's going on, my fellow A-Plussers? Welcome back once again to a brand new episode of A-Plus Hero Report, your weekly stop for your Marvel, DC, television, and movie news right here on our YouTube page, officially A-Plus Hero Report, but also streaming live on our Facebook page along with our Twitch account as well, ladies and gentlemen. But it is I, your host with the most, Adam Perez, back once again, ladies and gentlemen, to get into some amazing articles that we certainly wind up having for you guys this week that we're definitely going to be breaking down, discussing a little bit, giving you guys as our A-plus opinions. But remember, as always, at the end of the day, we definitely want to go ahead and know yours. So as we're talking about these week's articles and news, definitely go ahead and let your thoughts be known in the live chat or the comment section box below, so we can go ahead and get into a bunch of discussion topics for today. But it's not just me, ladies and gentlemen. It's not just me. I am joined none other but my partner in crime, Stuart Branscombe. What's going on, Stuart? Good to see you again today, buddy.
Good to be back once again. Glad to. I'm actually really excited about a few of these topics that we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, we got a ton of topics certainly on deck for us to certainly get through today. Unfortunately, Indy was not able to go ahead and join us. He was scheduled to go ahead and be live with us today, but unfortunately, with his work schedule, I think he had to go in for somebody that wind up calling off. So Indy won't be able to join us today, but hopefully in the near future, we'll certainly be able to have Indy back on here. If anything, he's going to be working on cutting out some highlights from today's show, getting those posted on our YouTube page as well. And Indy, in fact, will be returning because we do have Swamp Thing that's going to be airing on the CW that we will be doing reviews for here on A-Plus Hero Report. So definitely keep a lookout for our Swamp Thing reviews brought to you guys by Indy Uchiha. So let's see who's actually in the live chat with us today. We've got Doomsday certainly coming through. We appreciate that, Doomsday. Shadow Nova making his presence known as always. And of course, Anita certainly coming through. And of course, guys, as we wind up having stragglers, certainly make them feel welcome to A-Plus Hero Report while they certainly join us a little bit last minute. But regardless, guys, it's going to be a fun day. So sit back, relax. Hope everybody has their coffee. Did you have your energy drink today, Stuart?
Oh, yeah, I do.
Nice, man. Nice. I'm glad it's we're getting the hang of this 11 a.m. thing. At least I feel like I am. I woke up today not 30 minutes before the show had to air. So that's an improvement, I should say. Stuart, are there any out of the topics that we picked out? I know we couldn't get everything in here. Also, quick shout out to Gabriel for certainly coming through along with Jessica Friedman, as always. Outside of the topics that we have picked for today, were there any particular honorable mentions? Anything that popped up this week that maybe didn't make the cut but still sort of grabbed your eye?
Yes, actually. Don't worry, I'm not going to be going too much into it. I'm not going to do like a full-on review or anything. But on HBO Max, you can watch the South Park Pandemic Special, which I highly recommend. I know a lot of people might have been hesitant because they're like, oh, it's South Park. It's going to be like very mean-spirited. They're just going to kind of be making fun of everyone going through some tragic times. I promise you guys, it's not like that. This was actually a really good episode. It's like about 40 minutes long, and it actually had a genuinely. I don't want to like give out any spoilers, but it had a genuinely sweet ending to it, followed by a hilarious joke immediately afterwards. But it did have like a genuinely like unironically kind of sweet moment with Stan at the very end that I won't spoil. But yeah, and it of course gets really raunchy, going into directions that you're just kind of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they went there, and it's just hilarious. So I definitely recommend checking it out. 2020 has been such a crappy year, and I think right now this is like the perfect way to kind of laugh a lot of it off without it being like punching down or too mean-spirited or anything like that.
So I do have HBO Max. I did see that listed up there, but I didn't check it out. It's been a few years since I've been into South Park. I mean, when it first originally aired and we got the first few seasons and then even the movie, I think I probably fell off sometime maybe after the movie, but I definitely enjoyed my time with South Park. But that's cool, man. I'll have to maybe I'll go ahead and check it out on HBO Max. There's a ton of great series on HBO Max that I'm really into. Lovecraft Country. I wasn't the biggest fan of the first 2 episodes. It was a little bit hard for me to certainly get into. But what I will say is that after the first 2 episodes of Lovecraft Country, man, it just sort of takes off, and I've really enjoyed what I've seen so far. Raised by Wolves is a Ridley Scott film. If you're big into sci-fi, it's a series that he wind up creating. I can't remember if he has written all of them and directed the episodes themselves, but it does come directly from Ridley Scott. So if you are big into sci-fi, definitely check out Raising with Wolves. But HBO Max is really impressive to me. Like, if I'm not using my Netflix account, that's the next thing that I'm currently using. Is that in your like top 2 or 3 apps that you're using right now, Stuart? Your streaming services?
Definitely. And I've been wanting to check out Raised by Wolves because I've been hearing that there's like theories going around that it ties into Alien, like very like not like majorly, like it's not a prequel or a sequel or anything like that, but essentially there's like aliens in the show that people are saying are very similar to the xenomorphs, so they might have like some relevant, they might be related to them in some way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. There's a ton of mystery in regards to this, and we don't really even know too much about the planet that we're currently on in the series itself. But I can see why people would make those assumptions, or at least some of those particular theories, just from what I've seen. I don't really know overall. I definitely feel like it's going in a different direction, but I feel like anything that you watch from Ridley Scott almost feels like they can all be connected together. Just based off of his style. But yeah, I would definitely recommend it. It is very sci-fi, just so people know before going in. If there is any other honorable mention that I probably would mention, it's probably the realization that we're not getting a James Bond this year, unfortunately. No Time to Die, which was supposed to go ahead and release in November. I think they even released the Billie Eilish music video for the 007 theme song this past week. So they were really kicking up their marketing, getting ready for a release in November. But unfortunately, No Time to Die has been pushed from this year to Easter of 2021. So it's going to be a while before we get ourselves our Daniel Craig James Bond film. So Easter 2021 is the new release date for the James Bond film. What do you think about that, Stuart? Is that just another bummer in the cap that is 2020?
Yeah. Essentially, this means, as far as I can think, there's no more mainstream movies essentially that's coming out to theaters this year. So the theaters are going to have to heavily rely on re-releases and whatever independent films are still like willing to put their movies out into theaters. But when it comes to like kind of the blockbuster films that people go to the movies for, it sounds like we're not getting any of that at all this year.
Yeah, I know Wonder Woman, I think, is supposed to still be like December, like Christmas time. So maybe, because that is almost closer to the new year, maybe. I did think I thought I read an article here saying that Regal Cinemas might actually be closing down again, based off of the move now from 007, because like we talked about last week, the idea that theaters count on these big budget films to certainly keep their doors open. And so when they're not being shown, it's almost a case of like, are we just going to continue to burn through money and keep our theaters open? Can they make some sort? I'm sure maybe smaller theaters can make some money off of keeping a lot of the older movies kind of circulating in there, but you really do need these big tentpole film. So we'll see if we wind up getting Gabriel does point out, he says Wonder Woman and Dune are both slated for 2020. So
I didn't know Dune was.
Yeah, so we'll see if those two both come to fruition, or if everything's going to be like, you know what, guys, we're waving a white flag for 2020. We'll see you next year. We'll see what happens there, guys. But Stuart, I'm really hoping that, at least for your sake, because I know you do work at Cinemark, that they hopefully will keep you guys up running at least for a little bit longer there.
Yeah, I'm hoping so too. One really funny thing I kind of want to bring up about that is it used to be a thing, like when it came to movie theaters, if movies had to change their release date, so they went from, like, let's say being released of January of one year to let's push it back to May. One thing that theaters would get in a lot of trouble for is if they kept up the posters that said January, but now it's like literally every poster we have up has an inaccurate date, because at this point there's no way to predict when they're going to change the dates again. So I think at this point they're just kind of more lenient on that. They're like, yeah, who cares, just keep it up.
Just start releasing movie posters with question marks where the release date should be. Just like several question marks. Like, one day, guys, we'll be out there one day.
It'll be out eventually.
Yeah, they'll be out eventually. I mean, hey, movies are being back into production, so they do plan on coming out at some particular point in time. Maybe 2020 is in fact the year. But now that we've gotten those out of the way, Stuart, someone just honorable mentions for the week. We got to go ahead and dive into our main topics, ladies and gentlemen. So let's go ahead and start off here with one of our very first topics. Guys, listen. When it comes to Sony, when it comes to Marvel, the Spider-Man universe, to say the least, has definitely exploded. You can definitely tell that Sony has big plans for Spider-Man, regardless if he's going to be in some Marvel cinematic movies or over on the Sony universe side. I mean, we've seen Sony already develop films like a Venom. We've seen Morbius is in the works. They're talking about a possible Spider-Woman, maybe even a Kraven the Hunter sort of thing. So they definitely do have big things in the works for Spider-Man coming up. But one of the upcoming adventures for Spider-Man is, in fact, Spider-Man 3. We haven't really heard too much about that particular film, with the exception of maybe John Watts coming back to go ahead and direct his third installment of Spider-Man. But this week, ladies and gentlemen, we got some further development as to what we can certainly expect when it comes to Spider-Man 3. And it's a shocker, to say the least. And when it comes to Jamie Foxx, he's returning as good old Electro, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. This comes to us from The Hollywood Reporter, letting us know that Jamie Foxx is returning as Electro. This is an exclusive directly from them. I'm pretty sure when I read this initially, when it came across, I just thought to myself, this has got to be fake. This has got to be like, we got this covered, right? Like, I'm pretty sure this is like cosmicbooknews.com or whatever case may be. But no, this is coming from The Hollywood Reporter. It says, how's that for shocking news? The next Spider-Man movie is getting a major jolt. Jamie Foxx, who played the classic Spider-Man villain Electro in the Andrew Garfield starring The Amazing Spider-Man 2, is in final talks to reprise the role for the latest Spider-Man installment starring Tom Holland and being made by Marvel Studios and Sony Pictures. It says John Watts, the filmmaker behind Homecoming and last year's Far From Home, is in the director's chair for the third installment, which Sony has dated for December 17th of next year, mind you, 2021. Although moviegoers have now come to expect release dates to exchange amid the coronavirus pandemic. Most of the supporting cast from the previous movies are expected to be on the call sheet as well. Marvel, unfortunately, did have no comments. The story details are being kept under wraps, but having Fox return is a stunner, as it shows a further meddling further melding, I should say, of the previous Spider-Man movies into the current Holland series, which is the first one that Marvel running point on production. So listen, we've seen already, it points out here, J. Jonah Jameson returning, played by J.K. Simmons from Far From Home. And so now we wind up having ourselves Jamie Foxx, who played Electro in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, coming back to go ahead and reprise his role also. What I also want to point out here, also, Stuart, because I do think that it is important to highlight, Jamie Foxx has come out and confirmed that he is in fact returning as Electro. Now, this was actually something on IG, Instagram, that Jamie Foxx himself actually posted and then immediately sort of took down, but somebody managed to get a screenshot. But this is from Jamie Foxx's IG page, saying, tell Spidey, let's run it back. Super excited to be part of the new Marvel Spider-Man new installment. Can't wait for y'all to check out the new one. And I won't be blue in this one, but 1,000% badass. So yes, Jamie Foxx himself has in fact confirmed that he plans on returning for the Electro role in Spider-Man 3. Let me kick this over to you first here, Stuart. This is monumental, man. I certainly was not expecting this at all. I guess the really big question is, one, what's your level of excitement to have Jamie Foxx reprising his role as Electro, and what type of Electro do you think we're getting? Amazing Spider-Man 2 Universe Electro, a brand new version of Electro still played by Jamie Foxx? What are your thoughts about this when you hear this?
I'll talk first about what I'm expecting, because I know a lot of people have their theories about how, because of the way Amazing Spider-Man 2 ended with him, essentially he exploded and like was like vaporized into nothing, and then people are like kind of going to what if he wasn't vaporized, what if he was like, you know, teleported to another dimension and that's why he's in this. I don't think they're going with that, because I feel like that would be a little bit too convoluted to explain for, you know, a Spider-Man movie, especially because like I feel like they don't want to go into the multiverse stuff until Doctor Strange. So I think that they're waiting for Doctor Strange's movie to really tackle the multiverse within the Marvel universe. So I don't think that's going to happen. I'm pretty sure what's going to happen is that he's coming in to play a completely different version of Electro, and with a completely different origin story, a very different design. But you know, just with the same actor. It's going to be exactly like with J.K. Simmons, how he played J. Jonah Jameson in Spider-Man Far From Home, but it was nothing like the J. Jonah Jameson he played in the Tobey Maguire movie, because in the Tobey Maguire movie, he was like your traditional, boss of a news reporting station, essentially. Whereas, you know, in Far From Home, he's played a lot more like a parody of Alex Jones. So I think they're doing something like that with Jamie Foxx. He's going to have like a totally different take on the character. As for my excitement level, I'd say it's decently high up there, because I really like Electro as a villain, and then I also like Jamie Foxx as an actor. I just didn't like him in Amazing Spider-Man 2, but that's also just because I didn't really like Amazing Spider-Man 2 altogether. I feel like there were like a lot of things I wasn't a fan of with that film, but I do think that because he's a really good actor, I do think that in this role, like with a different director and them more than likely taking a very different direction with that character, I do think there's a lot of potential for him to really have a unique twist on this character. And I'd say my excitement level for him being Electro is pretty high up there.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to Jamie Foxx, I really am impressed with him as an actor. I certainly enjoy him for sure. Like, so it wouldn't surprise me if Kevin Feige has just been really impressed with Jamie Foxx's work, or maybe I'm pretty sure he saw Amazing Spider-Man 2, but maybe he wants to give Jamie Foxx sort of another chance at that particular character also. So I'm never going to be one to kind of push the idea of talent aside. So if they want to bring somebody like Jamie Foxx in, I'm more for it. If you were to ask me though, like, hey Adam, we're going to bring back Electro, who should we cast? Honestly, Jamie Foxx probably wouldn't be my first choice, and that's only because of the fact that I've already seen him sort of as Electro, so I like the idea of maybe having given somebody else sort of that opportunity to certainly play Electro again. So I think the fact that they didn't give somebody else that chance to play Electro again, I got to say something, Stuart. While I definitely was on your side of thinking in regards to, I think this is going to be just a different Electro, but we're just going to have Jamie Foxx come in, I'm definitely leaning towards the side that this is going to be the same Electro from Amazing Spider-Man 2. And I don't know why I feel that way, but it is just one of those things where I just think it would be really cool, man. Like in a year where 2020 has just been so unpredictable, I'm never going to say never that they wouldn't try to do something like this. The idea of the Spider-Verse and the multiverse is something that's already kind of been teased in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And I feel like because of that movie's success and seeing how influential it was to really introduce so many other multiverse Spider-Man characters and things like that, I think they want to play that up a little bit. I mean, when you have somebody like a Phil and Lord and Miller sort of attached already to Sony Productions, I mean, we know that they have a huge deal with Sony to go ahead and create things for Spider-Man, maybe more or less in the television live action universe side of things. But make no mistake, they definitely are attached to these films as executive producers, and probably do help with the storytelling and some of the plot points and things like that. So for me, I think this is something that Sony wants to try and do in regards to expanding their particular Spider-Verse. I mean, we've already seen hints of it, of Michael Keaton popping up in the Morbius trailer right from the MCU. We've already seen even the Spider-Man poster in the Morbius trailer from the Sam Raimi Spider-Man universe, if you will. So they're teasing, man. They're teasing. I feel like this is just what they're doing. Also, like I feel like Jamie Foxx knew what he was doing by making that comment. Hey, I'm coming back, guys, and then quickly deleting it. Like I think like if you're a part of a Marvel or Sony production, you know that you've got those snipers out there, sort of thing. So it feels like maybe, hey, let's just throw this out there. Let's retract it. Some nerd like ourselves is going to go ahead and get a screenshot of this, to kind of confirm. So I do feel like this is Sony teasing us for something really special here. And he says that he's not going to be blue. I completely get it. Like, if anything, I can also see the idea of Jamie Foxx reprising his role as Electro, the same character from Amazing Spider-Man. But how many years has it been since we've seen this guy, right? Maybe he has been living sort of in this world incognito, if you will, having been transported from one dimension to another. He's aged, right? He's gotten a better handle of his abilities. He's a bigger threat. And he's faced the Spider-Man before. Like something like that concept and that idea really gets me excited. Again, that's just me doing pure speculation, but I can see them maybe pulling that trigger and doing something like that just to go ahead and further open up the idea that this is in fact a Spider-Verse, that it is kind of all connected. And I think Marvel would certainly let Sony certainly get away with something like that, because you're right. I mean, Doctor Strange probably is going to introduce that, but do you know if Doctor Strange comes out before this Spider-Man film?
That is a good question, actually. I'm gonna Google that real quick.
Because I can't recall off the top of my head if it is or not, but I think this would be a great way of at least introducing the concept of a multiverse, at least for the Spider-Man side of things, and then Marvel, if however they want to handle their aspects of it being in the multiverse too. I can see it because something tells me that Doctor Strange comes out before this film, but considering how with the pandemic everything's kind of changed our release dates around, it's kind of hard to keep track of everything here. So again, guys, while nothing has been confirmed as to whether or not what type of role Jamie Foxx as Electro is certainly going to play, it definitely does bring up a ton of questions here. And for me, at least, I think this is Sony just teasing us, Stuart.
Yeah. Okay, so it is here. It's Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness is March 2015 of 2022. So yeah, it will be after the Spider-Man movie, because Spider-Man comes out December 17th. I will say this though. If you are right, and same with like, a lot of the fans that are also predicting this, if this ends up being true, like we end up having, Jamie Foxx's Electro as like, the same Electro from the Amazing Spider-Man, that would be very awesome, because then it could really open up the doors of many different possibilities. And as much as I wasn't a big fan of that version of Electro, I do think that, like you kind of mentioned, it's been years since the Amazing Spider-Man 2. So it is possible that that character could have developed over time, could have changed. And I could definitely see like, that character being better like over time. So within this movie, you could still have that same character, but it could still be like in a more enjoyable version of it. So, if that is the direction they go with it, I feel like if any studio can really pull it off, it's going to be Marvel.
Yeah, I think I do think that it is certainly something that could pull it off, and trust me, my mindset in regards to, I think Jamie Foxx is going to be the same Electro from Amazing Spider-Man. That literally came overnight for me, because honestly, I was taking the same stance that you were, Stuart. Like when I was thinking of Far From Home and seeing J.K. Simmons return, I was like, oh, that's simple, right? Like he's just reprising his J. Jonah Jameson character. There's clearly no connection to the past Sam Raimi movies, so they could probably easily do the same thing with Jamie Foxx. I mean, who knows? Again, this is just all speculation on our part here. But I will say this, this simply just also could be like, even if Jamie Foxx is his own separate thing, I think Sony, what they're doing here also with the Spider-Verse, by at least teasing us, some of our us fans, I think it's also letting us know as a reminder that these characters do belong to Sony, right? Like the idea of seeing Michael Keaton in a Morbius trailer, while shocking to see, like I feel like it shouldn't shock us though, right? Just because of the fact that he is a Sony character, like Marvel, like Sony can pull him from that Marvel movie and bring them over into their universe if they want to. So a part of me feels like this is a little bit of Sony trying to get us mentally prepared for when Spider-Man and Tom Holland eventually come over fully into the Sony Spider-Verse type of thing. I feel like that's just a level of them just kind of preparing us for that moment, you know?
Yeah, I agree. So yeah, that actually does make a lot more sense when you bring that up. Like, I'm still kind of more on the side of, I don't think it's going to be the same Electro, but at the same time, yeah, you do bring up a lot of good points. Like, if that is the version that they go with, it isn't like it's coming from left field. There have been kind of hints about this kind of stuff happening within the MCU already, just never like full on directly explained yet. So yeah, I could definitely see it going either way.
So we'll see what happens here, guys. Regardless, I think this is a really cool move. Even if it is just Jamie Foxx playing a brand new Electro, I really enjoy Jamie Foxx, and I think I wouldn't be surprised if they give him a completely different personality and things like that. Because some of the things that I was reading was Kevin Feige trying to give some. Back when Amazing Spider-Man 2 did drop, I remember reading Kevin Feige trying to give Sony some helpful advice, some constructive criticism after watching the one of the screenings or something like that, kind of giving his thoughts on how Jamie Foxx was being used as the character, saying that sometimes it came across a little bit too over the top, so a little bit too cartoony at times, right? So maybe Kevin Feige has more plans on how he certainly would like to correct that Electro character and giving us a fresh take on it by Jamie Foxx. I think that would be cool too. Like, regardless of whatever they decide to do, I would think that would be a pretty cool move from Kevin Feige to give Jamie Foxx that second chance, you know?
Yeah. Here we go. Here's the interesting take I just saw in the comments. So Gabriel brings up that Jamie Foxx came out on social media, like the post that you brought up, saying that he's saying that he's predicting that he'll have a similar design to Electro from Spider-Man PS4, which I could definitely see. And then he also goes on to say, to my opinion, that Electro is the coolest design.
From Spider-Man 4, from the PS4?
PS4 game, yeah.
Okay.
Which I'll say this, that was a really cool design. I could definitely see them kind of knowing Marvel, because they seem to always take inspiration from many different things when it comes to designing their characters. I could honestly see them using like comic book as a source. Same with, even Amazing Spider-Man 2 and the Spider-Man video game. So I do think that it'll definitely feel a lot familiar in a lot of ways, but it'll still be like its own original thing overall.
Yeah, you might be right. I hope that they do kind of take some influences from the game, especially design wise. I am definitely expecting him to have a completely different design. I'm hoping this time around, though. I'd never really seen the PS4 game so much. Electro PS4 Spider-Man.
Oh, you kind of froze it. Okay, you were saying you haven't seen the Electro from the Spider-Man 4 game?
Yeah, but I do like that design, honestly, and harkening back to the green and yellow original color scheme for Electro, I think would be great. So I think, if anything, he's definitely not going to be blue. So that is, in fact, the new color scheme for Electro. It doesn't seem far-fetched at all, Gabriel. So thank you for that. Thank you for that comment. But I do like that design, man. That's pretty badass design.
Oh, and then one more comment I got to bring up.
Give me the classic electrifying mask Electro. Let's go that route.
See, what would be kind of cool is that mask just kind of forming, but not because of like a mask on, but because like he actually has like electricity like just forming around his face to like just naturally make that pattern. That'd be sick.
That'd be pretty sick. Yeah, that'd be pretty sick, honestly.
But this I always thought was funny in the Morbius trailer for the Spider-Man that you kind of like see in the background, even though it's the Sam Raimi costume, the pose came from the Spider-Man PS4 game.
Yeah, I remember hearing mostly the Sam Raimi one, but I do, now that he brings that up in regards to it being part of PS4, yeah, that definitely does look familiar to me. I just love the fact that they're at least teasing this stuff, because we know what's coming, man. They're definitely trying to go ahead and meld this all together at some point in time, whether it be Into the Spider-Verse. I wouldn't be surprised if Into the Spider-Verse 2 really introduces us to maybe like a Who Framed Roger Rabbit idea in the sense of mixing live action and animation together, because I really would love to see something like that, for us to really tap into the idea that, listen, this Spider-Verse doesn't just exist in animation form, it's in all types of form, it's all certainly all connected. And I really feel as though those are the little breadcrumbs that Sony's just kind of leaving behind for us, man. They're teasing us, Stuart. They're getting us worked up, man. Spider-Verse is coming. They're like, you like those teases, don't you? You like those teases. Yeah, I do, Sony. Keep them coming, man.
Yep, keep them coming.
Keep them coming. All right, guys. But hey, listen, we want to know your thoughts. Let us know your thoughts on Jamie Foxx returning as Electro. Are you excited for his return? And what version of Electro certainly would you like to see? Go ahead and let us know your thoughts in the live chat or the comment section box below. And ladies and gentlemen, our next story, we'll go ahead and just start tackling this stuff. We're going to go ahead and stick with the Marvel aspect of things here. 2 weeks ago, literally, Stuart, 2 weeks ago, we were here talking about the idea that Miss Marvel wind up acquiring the Bad Boys for Life directors to go ahead and work on their projects. Who would have known 2 weeks later we would have had ourselves a casting announcement? First, we wind up getting ourselves She-Hulk, played by Tatiana Maslany. That happened 2 weeks ago. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we have a new casting. This comes to us directly from Deadline.com, letting us know that Iman Vellani, a newcomer to Hollywood, Iman Vellani, set to go ahead and play the title role in Marvel's Miss Marvel series for Disney Plus. It says, exclusive, after a long and hard search, Marvel has found its Miss Marvel. The studio is tapping newcomer Iman Vellani to star in its Disney Plus series based on the comic book character. Marvel and the streamer recently named Adil El Arbi and Bilal Fallah, Sharmeen Abaid Chinoy, and Mira Minan as directors on the project. Marvel has yet to make any comment. It does say that Miss Marvel hails from the writer Bisha Ali and centers on Kamala Khan, a Pakistani-American teen based in New Jersey. Let's see here. It says Marvel Studios' Kevin Feige has said that in addition to appearing on the small screen, Kamala Khan will be included in future Marvel films. It says right now the plan was always to stay true to the character and finding the right actress to play the role, even if it meant offering a person that was not well known in public. And definitely, guys, she certainly is not well known at all. She is, in fact, the newcomer, Iman Vellani. So we do have ourselves our Miss Marvel finally. This is a huge role here. I really feel as though outside of Brie Larson as Captain Marvel, I feel like the addition here to Miss Marvel in Kamala Khan is probably going to be one of their more impactful characters that they certainly have going forward. I mean, you can easily see just from Marvel comic books how pivotal of a role or how important of a role Miss Marvel plays. You can already see from just the Avengers video game that we have that just recently came out, the role that Kamala Khan certainly plays as Miss Marvel in the movie. So this is a character that is certainly going to start being at the forefront for a lot of Marvel development stuff going further, I certainly think. And you want to talk about having an opportunity set in front of you for Iman Vellani. The fact that Marvel Studios has picked her, man, I would not be surprised if they're just going to start molding this girl into a star. Like the casting that had to go for this, I couldn't even imagine what the casting was probably like for this this particular role, to be quite honest with you. I don't know how many people that they certainly went through, but if there's anybody that I trust when it comes to their casting, it certainly is Marvel. And if they thought that this newcomer here in Iman Vellani was the right choice for it, count me in. One, I know she's a huge Brie Larson fan, and two, I am kind of curious to know what that casting was like for her. Like for me, it would be hard to imagine that she would not have had some sort of screen test with Brie Larson. Like I gotta think that she was on screen with her together at some point in time, or having maybe some other big, big Marvel Studio actors' names kind of come in to have her read alongside of, because it is going to be important to see how she does with all these big star actors, considering the fact that she is going to be in future Marvel movies as well. So I think this is great news. You know, the one thing that we've talked about when it comes to Marvel, Stewart, over the past month or so, or I should say back in early September, was we haven't heard anything from Marvel when it comes to their television series, like at all. And then all of a sudden here within the past month, maybe past month or 2 weeks or so, we've been getting ourselves a ton of news. So I would not be surprised if by the end of October, we have some like more Moon Knight stuff that winds up coming out, maybe finally some casting for Moon Knight. I feel like this is Marvel now starting to give us their Marvel television slate stuff finally that's really coming in hot and heavy, to be quite honest with you. And I'm loving all the information that we're getting here. So we have our Miss Marvel, guys. If anything, this feels very much like She-Hulk's probably getting fast-tracked. I wouldn't be surprised if Miss Marvel is being fast-tracked into development as well. So I'm glad we finally have our missing piece to the puzzle here, Stuart. But let me kick this off to you, man. We have a newcomer, Iman Vellani, cast as Miss Marvel. What are your thoughts, sir?
I love that this is really showing that Marvel is really not afraid to, reach out to even like the newer actors out there. Because yeah, one of the things I did before we started Hero Report was check her out on IMDb and realize, yeah, this is her first like acting production. Like she's probably done some acting before. I'm not saying like she's inexperienced. Like she's probably done like plays, and maybe there's like some independent films that aren't on her page yet. But as far as like when it comes to like, bigger productions, this is her first like major role. So I am really excited to see how she does. And, clearly Marvel saw something in her and that's why they chose her. So I'm really excited to see like what it is that she brings to the table here. And yeah, I do also find it really awesome, like also in that article that you were reading, is that not only is she going to be making, her appearances on the television screen, but she's also going to be going to the movies as well, showing that like not only are they not afraid to like give new and upcoming actors like a shot like at playing these major roles like right out of the gate, but they're also willing to let them play alongside with other really big actors out there who have been doing this for many years. So it's going to be exciting to see how she does.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And just to kind of even jump off of that, it says, although this marks Vellani's first major Hollywood production, she already has made tries to help diversify the industry. In 2019 Toronto Film Festival, she was part of the Next Wave Committee, which was tasked with adding a special tag to films already programmed into their categories, which they believe would resonate with their peers. So she definitely is being active already in Hollywood, even prior to getting landing this particular role. So she's definitely making her impact certainly be felt already out in Hollywood. So I think this is great. Yeah, I like the idea personally of a newcomer. I don't really know what the landscape is like out there for Pakistani, actors or actresses or anything like that, which I believe she's Pakistani Canadian, if I'm not mistaken. I believe she is from Canada as well. So, I don't know what the landscape is like out there as far as like super talented actors or how many people actually came out for this particular role. But if Marvel wanted to go with a newcomer, to me, I'm definitely going to go ahead and trust them. And this will be a huge role for her. I think it'll definitely, I don't want to say make or break her, but definitely will. I think if anything, it was probably going to put her on a great trajectory. And hopefully she winds up becoming a huge star after this.
Yeah. And, it's really good that, this is the kind of thing that Marvel and Disney are trying to do. Like they're trying to reach out for diversity, because let's face it, we all know that if this was like 2005 or before, Disney would have just been like, hey, Miley Cyrus, here's an extra $20. Go get yourself a tan.
Yeah. You come back as Miss Marvel. We'll have you over there. Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm glad that that's not the kind of mindset that they're doing anymore. So, I definitely I always love like just seeing like new coming actors, like seeing them for the first time and like being there to witness their first film, because then if they become big later on, we're able to be like, oh yeah, I remember when they started out just in this role. So it'll be really interesting in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, even Gabriel is over here saying, says, I actually think it's a good idea that they cast an unknown for Miss Marvel because if she kills a role, her star power will skyrocket and she'll be in high demand for future projects. I certainly hope so. Hopefully, she has better opportunities than, say, like a Daisy Ridley after Star Wars. Hopefully, other opportunities certainly come, and hopefully, they don't just keep her trapped, sort of in that superhero role, if you will. But listen, I mean, considering the fact of how young she is, I think she's only 18 years old, if I'm not mistaken. She's going to be playing this character. I mean, God, I wouldn't be surprised if Marvel locked this girl down for like 6 to 8 films. You know what I'm saying? Like you're about to grow up as Miss Marvel through the MCU. So we'll see what happens. But I'm really excited. I'm glad to see that development for these Marvel TV series are picking up some steam. And I think one of the biggest casting, because I think a lot of people were certainly waiting for this, has certainly been filled. And I think the next one up, I think a lot of us are probably expecting, or at least keeping my fingers crossed, that I'm looking forward to, is Moon Knight. So we'll see what happens. In 2 weeks, will we get ourselves, hey, new directors are set, and then in 2 more weeks, hey, we got our Moon Knight cast? We'll see, guys. We'll definitely see what happens. But let us know your thoughts. Now that you know that Iman Vellani is, in fact, going to be our Miss Marvel, what are your thoughts on the newcomer joining the MCU in our in the live chat or the comment section box below, ladies and gentlemen? And with Oops, you know what? I did the wrong one. Sorry, Stuart. And with that out of the way, we're going to go ahead and move on to our next topic, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to go ahead and go over to some more movie talk. This one kind of came out of left field for me this week. I wasn't expecting to hear anything in regards to this movie. Stuart, have you seen the Alicia Vikander Tomb Raider movie that we wind up getting a few years back?
Got to be totally honest, I have not. The only Tomb Raider movie I saw was the very first one from like 2000.
Oh, Angelina Jolie. That was
Yep.
that was also one. Angelina Jolie was like at her finest in that movie. In that movie. Definitely, one replayability is incredible for that Tomb Raider movie. But listen, Alicia Vikander did come out with the Tomb Raider movie a few years back, and I actually did not mind it, to be quite honest with you. I wouldn't say it's the best video game adapted movie that we've certainly have had, but it's definitely up there. I feel like, at least with passable. Like I can definitely watch it, enjoy it, walk away from it, and be like, all right, that was a decent film. But ladies and gentlemen, it looks as though we have not seen the last of her. Alicia Vikander recently just came out and talked to Entertainment Weekly, Entertainment Weekly, letting us know Alicia Vikander gives hopeful update on the stalled Tomb Raider movie sequel. It says Oscar winner says she'll return to planning her return as Lara Croft in 2021. It says Alicia Vikander is hoping to lace up her Lara Croft boots once again during a Friday morning interview, pegged to her turn as Gloria Steinman in the new Amazon film, The Glorious. The Oscar winner actress revealed working on the previously announced sequel to her big screen 2018 video game adaptation Tomb Raider will likely resume in 2021. This is what Alicia says. She says the plan was for us to start making one this year. Of course, due to the pandemic situation, that's now very different. We're still in discussions about it, so I hope we can probably get to it sometime next year. It does say here that Entertainment Weekly confirmed that Free Fire director Ben Wheatley is taking over the director's chair to helm Vikander's first turn as the iconic Tomb Raider as well. So, honestly, it says they initially set it for March 19th of 2021, but clearly that's certainly going to go ahead and be pushed back. I'm glad that they at least gave me a year as to when this movie came out. I honestly forgot that it was back in 2018. So really not that long ago. This movie literally came out about 2 years ago. I honestly thought Alicia Vikander gave a pretty good performance for the most part. There is some cheese factor to that particular movie, some lines, maybe some one-liners I wasn't necessarily the biggest fan of. But when you ask one of your actors to come in and play such a huge role like Tomb Raider, I got to give props to Alicia Vikander for really taking the role seriously, getting herself in just some amazing and incredible shape. I would definitely recommend you check it out for sure, Stuart, whenever you get the chance. But I thought Alicia Vikander did a pretty good job as Lara Croft, very much very much feeling like it was taking its inspiration from the more current Tomb Raider video games, if you will, since they have been, I think they just recently came out with a brand new trilogy just a few over the past few years here. But that's definitely where that Tomb Raider film is certainly inspired from, more or less than where the previous Tomb Raider film with Angelina Jolie certainly was. So when it comes to Alicia Vikander, I really want to see her tackle this role as Tomb Raider once again, to be quite honest with you. I think this will be a really good step in the direction for the franchise and for Vikander's career, because I did think that she did a pretty stellar job as Lara Croft. So we'll see if we wind up getting it again. But Stuart, I know you said you hadn't seen the first one. Are you interested in checking it out, and what are your thoughts on the idea of a sequel?
Yeah, I think I will get around to checking it out eventually. I honestly, man, it's so weird because it's going to make me sound like I'm really hypocritical in this way, but it's like I love the Uncharted games, but I could never get into the Tomb Raider games for some reason, and I don't know why. I haven't tried any of the new ones, so maybe if I actually tried like some of the newer games, I might like them a little more, because I hear those ones feel a lot more like Uncharted in a lot of aspects. But when it came to the original Tomb Raider games, like back on the PlayStation 2 and Xbox, I almost said Xbox One. What I meant was like, the first Xbox system.
Yeah.
I just couldn't get into them. And I think it just kind of comes down to the fact that like a lot of the shooting is just, it's like the lock on, it's kind of the boring lock on targets and then pull the trigger so you can't miss anything. That kind of shooting always has bored me when it comes to video games. It's why like even like GTA, like if the GTA games were only shooting, I would have gotten bored with those games really easily back in the day. But since it's a sandbox game, I never did. But I guess like with Tomb Raider, the puzzles and platforming only could be fun for like a little bit for me, but eventually they got boring. So I think that might be why I couldn't get like fully into them. But the movie with Angelina Jolie, I loved. It was super cheesy in all the right ways. But I think because I never really connected with the Tomb Raider games as a whole, I never saw the sequel, and then I never saw this newer film that came out in theaters. But I do think I should at least give it a chance. So I might give it a chance later, and if I like it, I'll definitely look forward to the sequel.
It's funny you bring up the video games, because you're right. I mean, when they first started coming out with Uncharted, I can't remember which ones came out first, the Uncharted or the newest trilogy of Tomb Raider video games. But I just remember thinking to myself, like, man, this is what Tomb Raider could easily be. And when you play the current Tomb Raider games, that's what they feel like to me. They almost feel very much like a more cinematic action adventure film, just kind of turned into a video game. So for me, really big fan of the current series of Tomb Raider stuff. So I definitely would recommend it for sure if you get the chance to, because that's what it does remind me of. It definitely leans more or less towards that action adventure like Uncharted certainly does. And you're right. I mean, with the idea of Uncharted also getting the film, which is currently in production right now with Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg, with Uncharted being thrown out there, maybe it's the time for those big action adventure, mystery sort of puzzle movies. Let's go ahead and start throwing those out, because it very much reminds me of like the Nicolas Cage films like National Treasure and stuff, right? But just done on a big budget. Like I would love to see Uncharted in those realms, and even another Tomb Raider movie in that light as well. So hopefully we wind up getting something along those lines. But I thought the first one was pretty good. I mean, it was decent, honestly. Some cheesy lines, maybe not the best acting in the world. So I'm hoping that whoever they wind up casting this time around for some of the supporting actors are a little bit better than what we got. But as far as Alicia Vikander as Tomb Raider, I thought she did a pretty good job. And I really like the focus of her story in that movie. So give me another sequel. I may not like rush out to the theaters to certainly see it, but I definitely would check it out, to say the least. But guys, we definitely want to know your thoughts. If you had a chance to check out Alicia Vikander's Tomb Raider, what did you think of it? Did you enjoy the first film? Would you want to see a second film? Or at least what did you think of Alicia Vikander herself as Lara Croft? Because it definitely took inspiration from the brand new video game series, if you will, for sure. I think other than that, that will do it for that particular article. We are going to go ahead and move on here. We're going to diverge a little bit here, Stuart, because I don't even know where to put this in, at least under the range of just television in general. But I thought this was such an interesting story. I had to go ahead and add this to our week's storylines, but this comes to us from Deadline. We're just going to jump right into the story, guys. Conan the Barbarian television series is currently in the works at Netflix. This comes to us from Deadline. It says exclusive. Netflix has put in development an epic live action series based on Conan, the iconic sword and sorcery character created by writer Robert E. Howard, I have learned. I hear the project from Frederick Malberg and Mark Wheeler's Pathfinder Media is the first in the deal between Netflix and Conan Properties International. It says the pact gives Netflix exclusive option to acquire rights to the Conan literary library and develop works across TV and film, both live action and animated. Says the move would fit into Netflix's strategy of acquiring global recognizable IP to build a universe of films and television series. It says a search is currently underway for a writer and a showrunner to pen the Conan adaptation and a director to helm the project as well. And of course, Malberg and Wheeler will serve as executive producers. So it says Pulp Fiction author Howard introduced Conan the Barbarian in the series of short stories published all the way back in 1932 in Weird Tales magazines. And then it has a ton of other stories and things like that over the years as well. So there's a huge literary library for Conan the Barbarian, along with a ton of comic book stories for them to certainly tap into if they certainly wanted to. Stuart, I wanted to bring this topic up today because growing up as a kid, I got to tell you, man, one of my guilty pleasures as a kid growing up was the 1980s Conan the Destroyer movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger. It was the second film that Arnold did as Conan. I literally just rewatched the first Conan earlier this week, and I can tell you I can immediately see why I loved Conan the Destroyer, the second one, because I feel like maybe back in that day was definitely getting more into that 80s vibe. You know, like movies back in the 80s always had that 80s vibe or maybe early 90s vibe to it. And I felt like that's where Conan, the second one, really took its inspiration from. Like it definitely developed into something more than what it was from the original Conan the Barbarian movie. I mean, the first one, very little dialogue from Arnold, a ton of violence, right? Just raw in your face kind of stuff. Conan the Destroyer was very much like a little bit more kid friendly, if you will, a little bit more humor. Arnold's got some jokes, maybe a couple of lines here or there, a little bit lighthearted, but still, don't get me wrong, it's Conan, so he's wrecking shop for sure. But I like the idea of utilizing a character like Conan. Look, we've got a character like The Witcher that kind of deals already in sword and sorcery, already taking things from literary pages from The Witcher, if you will. I feel like Conan is right up that alley also in a world of television where we're living past Game of Thrones. Now that that's taken off of television, there is a part of me that thinks maybe like, I think they also call them like sword and sandals movies or television series. I like the term sword and sorcery. I feel like there's more room on some of these streaming services for content like this, especially when it comes to Conan the Barbarian. We saw Jason Momoa. He had a Conan the Barbarian movie here back in 2011 also. So there's definitely a lot of inspiration for them to certainly take a television series in the works from Netflix. I love what Netflix has been doing with their television series in general. So if they want to go ahead and develop a Conan the Barbarian TV series, I'm here for it. Very early on in production, clearly there's no writer or showrunner or even directors attached, just a deal that they've penned, but one that certainly gets me excited. Stuart, let me go ahead and throw this over to you. What are your thoughts about the idea of Conan the Barbarian being in the works over at Netflix, and what have you thought about the franchise as a whole?
The franchise as a whole, I'll get that first because it's funny. I actually never saw the second one. I only saw the first one, and that was like as a kid. So I honestly don't remember a lot about that movie. So I am actually kind of interested in rewatching all the Conan movies back to back because like I do remember really enjoying the first one. So I'll probably have to do that like later. As for like it coming to Netflix, makes a lot of sense, especially because like you said, it feels like that just kind of sword and sorcery genre of television. It feels like it was dead for like such a long period of time until Game of Thrones brought it back, but brought it back in a way of showing, hey, we can still do these type of shows and we can, you know, give it to a mainstream audience. We can like have a more serious take on it. But something, and I know this is going to be me wishful thinking, knowing that this is probably not going to happen with a property like Conan. I kind of miss that really cheesy era of the sword and sorcery television, like the Hercules, the Xena, you know, the young Hercules too with Ryan Gosling. Like a part of me kind of misses that genre where
Ryan Gosling was a young Hercules.
Yeah, there is a. I don't know if it was.
When did I miss this?
I don't know if it was actually connected to that universe, but there was a young Hercules TV series that's crazy. Had Ryan Gosling as like Hercules.
That's crazy. I didn't even realize that. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's quite hilarious. But like, yeah, a part of me kind of misses that cheesy fantasy genre that on television where, you know, the budget would be low. So you'd have like, you know, a lot of the exact same sets, but the characters would be treating it like it's a very new set. You'd have that really fun tokusatsu style, like wire fu sword fighting, you know, and some of the times like the sword fightings would be good. Other times you could tell they would be trying not to break the props, so they have to be careful. I'd love to see that genre, but done with like a big budget so they could still have that fun cheese campiness to it. But without like, you know, having to have the dark tone to it. And I think Conan would be the perfect property to do that with. Do I think they're going to do it? Probably not. And I'm not going to be mad if they don't do it. Like I'll still definitely a Conan TV series, sign me up regardless of what they do with it. But a part of me does kind of miss that cheesy fantasy genre.
Yeah, I definitely hope they do bring it back. And like, I feel like there's got to be like a nice little balance to being able to bring back like a more updated version, but still sprinkling your cheese here and there throughout the series. I would love to see something like that. Let me ask you, because you know, you said that you would like to go back and watch it. Literally this week, I literally watched Conan the Barbarian. I did skip over The Destroyer because I've already seen so many damn times. And then I even went back and revisited the 2011 Jason Momoa one, which I missed in theaters. I don't think I fully watched it, but I did go ahead and actually watch it this past week. And I got to tell you, I don't think it's as bad as a lot of people say that it is, to be honest with you. I mean, you know, there's not a ton of dialogue. If anything, I feel like they gave Jason Momoa more dialogue than they even dared give Arnold Schwarzenegger in that first film. And if you ask me, I really do think that it added to his character a little bit more. I honestly was a big fan of just the story elements behind it also. And there is something just really cheesy about like sword and sorceries and some action and the magic and the special effects and stuff. I thought it was a really great sort of combination because I don't want to say it feels like a weird combination of sword fighting and sorcery, but I guess I've always liked that idea of seeing somebody like a mere mortal like Conan, who's just so raw and savage that he can even go up against characters that have these super abilities or these powers like sorcery and magic and find some way to go ahead and still manage to kind of chop them down. You know what I mean? At all costs. There is something barbaric that I absolutely love about that side of him, but I think Jason Momoa did a really good job for the 2011 film in bringing that Conan character to life. So I'm not going to say it was an amazing film, but I do think it's a better film than people actually give it credit for. And I wouldn't mind if they took some inspiration from that movie. Like if you were to ask me, who would you cast as Conan? Can we bring back Jason Momoa? Like, can we do like later adventures of Conan in his life? Or like that movie came out in 2011, so almost 10 years ago. I'm not exactly sure how old Jason Momoa is, but he still looks like he could probably do that role if he certainly wanted to. So if Netflix is talking about bringing in a Conan the Barbarian live action TV series, Jason Momoa's got my vote for first one up as far as being cast. Would you like to see Jason Momoa return though, or do you think they should go more new casting, like a newcomer, like they did with for Miss Marvel, or what do you think?
Let me put it this way. I actually completely forgot that Jason Momoa was in the 2011 movie because I actually never saw that. I still haven't seen that one. But if you were to just randomly ask me, hey, Stuart, if you were to direct a Conan the Barbarian movie or TV show, who would your number one casting choice be for Conan? I'd probably answer before you even finish the question, just go Jason Momoa. Because he has like the perfect build for a Conan movie. And then like just seeing him like, not only as Drago, I think that was his name in Game of Thrones, but seeing him as Aquaman, just that charisma he could bring to it, he would be like just perfect for any kind of Conan adaptation that you're going for. If you're going for like a serious adaptation, I feel like he could pull that off really good. But if you want to go for the fun, campy, like fantasy version of it too, he could pull that off too. Like I feel like it's a win regardless of which style of Conan you want to go for.
Yeah, I now just your excitement of seeing Jason Momoa in a Conan movie, even though we've already had it. Like I'm like, yes, please give it to me again. Like I would love to see Jason Momoa attached to this in some way, because you speak of his build, but the one thing that I also stuck out to me is that he does a great job of just bringing this ferocity to the roles that he plays, just this primal sort of attitude about him that just comes across the screen. And when it comes to somebody like, if you have to have Jason Momoa portray a barbarian, like, yeah, he could easily do that with no problem whatsoever. Because my issue would be, granted, I'm sure somebody could come out and get built for the role, but I feel like Conan should just already be huge. Like, and I just don't know who else out there right now that I could pick and see in this particular role. Maybe Joe Manganiello. I don't even know. Like, for me, it's got to be Jason Momoa, unless somebody else brings somebody else more enticing across. But right now, I would love to see Jason Momoa pop back up in here. Like, I don't even think they've approached him at all. Like, this feels very much in early development. Like, hey, the ink is still fresh on this contract that we acquired these rights. But I hope somebody reaches out to Jason Momoa, because I think he could still pull it off. There's so much content for Conan out there, whether it be literary, whether it be comic book wise. I'm pretty sure regardless of how old Jason Momoa is, I feel like they could put him in at any point in Conan's life and still tell a compelling story.
There is a streaming app now. I haven't checked out the show yet, but it is definitely on my radar. The streaming app, I believe, is called Tubi, and they have like a lot of really old like TV shows that most of them I haven't even heard of because they were pretty much really bad. So they never really lasted that long. But one of them is a Conan TV series. So I actually might over next week, like next weekend, or over the course of this week, I'm probably going to be rewatching the first Conan movie and then watching the sequel. And if I have time to, I'll probably check out an episode of two of that TV show to kind of like get the mindset of what would be perfect for a Conan TV show. Basically,
just go on a Conan binge, man.
Yeah,
that's what
exactly.
You should just do the rest of this week. Because I literally knocked out 2 Conan movies in a day, and I had a blast watching them, honestly. But yeah, I'm really eager to see what they wind up doing in here. I just think it's a perfect time. Like television for me, or streaming services, however you want to call it these days, they've just been putting out so much great content, if you will, that TV is almost becoming as big as movies. And so all the money that Netflix is pouring out to acquire a lot of these intellectual properties, I can see them easily putting a ton of effort and production budget behind this. I mean, if The Witcher can be successful, I feel like you have another IP in Conan the Barbarian, the true sort of sword and sorcery character here, really having some shine. So I hope I hope they pull this off really well. I'm looking forward to it, honestly.
Definitely. It'd be awesome. We're a non-canonical, like not even canon to the Conan series or the Witcher series crossover, where it's just you just get a good sword fight between Henry Cavill's Witcher and Jason Momoa's Conan.
Man, I would absolutely love to see those two go at it, bro. That'd be so much fun. But ladies and gentlemen, listen, we want to know your thoughts. At the end of the day, these are just simply our A+ opinions. We definitely want to know yours. Now that you know that Netflix owns the rights to a Conan the Barbarian TV series, and they now have plans for one, what's your levels of excitement? And do you have anybody in mind that you certainly would like to see cast? And what are your thoughts on the past Conan movies? Also, definitely go ahead and let us know your thoughts in the live chat or the comment section box below.
If the 2011 reboot had never been made, I would have said Jason Momoa would have been a good Conan, but we've already seen Jason Momoa as Conan.
Same as you. You just said that, Stuart. Same as you, man.
But at the same time, though, we also had a Jamie Foxx as, I don't know why I added the lead. I think I was like almost saying.
Can somebody put together an amalgamation of Jamie Lee Curtis and Jamie Foxx? I want to see what they would look like if they had a kid. Jamie Lee Foxx.
That's funny. But yeah, it's the same thing as Jamie Foxx. We've seen him as Electro, but we're about to see him as Electro again in Spider-Man. It could be the same version like we kind of went over, but also a quick shout out to Bacon and Sushi, who's also on Facebook as well as AJ.
What's up, man? Appreciate you coming through. Yeah, if anything, you make a good point, right? Like, we did just get Jamie Foxx back as Electro. Maybe they could call up Jason Momoa and be like, hey, man, we know you did this movie. We really were impressed with what you do. We want to have you come back and reprise your role and just be like later adventures of Conan. You know what I'm saying? I think he could pull it off, man. I think he could do it.
Then this is actually kind of funny. I don't know much about Conan, but it sounds kind of like Kratos from God of War.
I feel like you're probably not far off. Pretty much Conan was, I guess it just depends on what movie version you go back to. But I think from what I recall, I think he was part of, I don't know if he was part of a barbarian race already. Some people kind of came through, killed his family, raided his village sort of thing, left him for dead, if you will, to kind of survive on his own. And Conan had to really just kind of make a name for himself, if you will, and became like just a savage warrior that made a name off of just his skill and things like that, and became super popular and roaming the lands. And you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, he's just savage, man. He's savage. And I absolutely love that about Conan for sure.
Yeah, I'd say they both have the savage elements down, but in terms of backstory and motivation, very different. Because I feel like Conan, he'll definitely fight for survival and he'll definitely take out his revenge if you try to cross him. But I feel like, Kratos is that kind of person where if you accidentally trip and you're on his trail, rather than him just asking you to move out of his way, he will just use his blades to slice you in half to make an easy path for him. Whereas Conan will probably push you out of the way or something. You'll survive if you encounter Conan. If you encounter Kratos, whether or not you have hostile intentions, your chances of survival aren't the highest.
Yeah, literally Conan's slogan, somebody asks Conan, what is best in life? You know what Arnold says? He says, to crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentations of their women. That's Conan for you, bro. That's Conan for you. He's raw as they come, man. I cannot wait to see what they wind up doing with him.
Oh, last comment, because this is also a cool thing about Tubi and the Shout Factory app as well. You can watch some old school Super Sentai.
Oh, yes, you certainly can. They got a ton. They have a great collection over there. I even have Pluto TV, and I think I don't know if Shout Factory is on there. It might be on Pluto TV, but they have it too, where you can watch Kamen Rider and Super Sentai series on there. And Pluto TV is free, also, if you guys are interested. So, hey, great sources then. Tubi TV for some old school Super Sentai and Pluto TV. I like it. Yep. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts and levels of excitement for this upcoming Conan the Barbarian TV series. I cannot wait, man. I'm really so glad that I watched them this week. This article alone got me hyped to go ahead and watch these Conan films. So I'm glad that I got some of those out of the way. But if you guys get a chance, certainly go ahead and go down that yellow brick road of Conan movies. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and jump. We got two more articles that we're going to go ahead and tackle for you guys today. Continuing along with the Netflix side of things. one of Netflix's biggest shows, and trust me, they've got plenty of shows, is in fact Stranger Things. We wind up having season 3 sometime last year. It takes forever for these series to come up with brand new seasons, so I forget when season 3 certainly was. But I was a big fan of season 3. Loved season 1. Was a little bit lukewarm on season 2. Really loved the 3rd season, and I can't wait for season 4. But unfortunately for us, the pandemic did go ahead and stop production for Stranger Things seasons 4. But ladies and gentlemen, there might be some light at the end of the tunnel for some of us, as officially, according to comingsoon.net, Stranger Things season 4 has officially resumed its production. That's right, guys. The pandemic couldn't keep them away from continuing the production. It says Netflix has released a new behind the scenes photo from the set of their hit sci-fi series Stranger Things, confirming that filming on the highly anticipated 4th season has finally resumed in Atlanta, Georgia. This news comes after 6 months since production was temporarily shut down. It's still unknown if the long production delay had already affected the streamer's previous planned release date for the series return or not. And then they wind up showcasing one of the behind the scenes photos here. It looks like that's a clock. I don't know where that clock is set at, though. Maybe it's out in Russia somewhere. Who certainly knows? But so yeah, guys, Stranger Things season 4 has officially resumed production, and I believe Millie Bobby Brown also this week, doing an interview with Jimmy Fallon, confirmed that yes, production has in fact resumed. So Stuart, let me go ahead and throw this over to you first, sir. Now that you know Stranger Things is back in production, 1, are you a big fan of this series, and 2, are you excited for this?
Very excited for this. Yeah, I really liked, I've really been enjoying Stranger Things for the most part. Really enjoyed, I still think season 1 was the best, but I thought seasons 2 and 3 were good in their own way. I think my only real complaint about, season 3 had to go to, I forgot, Hopper, right? That was the yes. Officer's name.
Yep.
Yeah. It was so weird because I loved him in the first 2 seasons. He was like my favorite character on the show, but he just, I mean, is it just me or was he like suddenly just a dick in the 3rd season?
I'm trying to, I did hear that complaint to some people, but I didn't mind it so much. I get the idea of being, well, I can't say I get the idea of being an overprotective parent because I'm not a parent, but I can see how he would go into that role, honestly, and kind of be that guy that's that pushback, if you will.
Like, I didn't mind that part too much because it kind of made sense, especially because, he lost a daughter, years ago. So, like, that made sense to me. I was more like just kind of annoyed with like I forgot her name, but it was Will's mom, I believe, that he was like, trying to get with. But
stuff, yeah.
He came off as such a I guess the best way to put it is, for people on the internet, we'll probably get this term, a Reddit nice guy, essentially.
I like a Reddit nice guy.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just, but, maybe, who knows, being imprisoned by Russians will make him not a douchebag anymore. But yeah, going into season 4, I'm definitely excited, especially because one thing I was worried about, especially after season 3, is I thought season 3 was supposed to be the last season. So when I saw that it kind of was ending on a cliffhanger and realized they were going for one more season, my biggest fear is the same fear I always have with these type of shows. I'm like, please don't drag it on till, it ends up sucking, please just like make sure you have a plan to end it eventually and you end it on a really good note. And that's what I'm hoping they do with this season. I'm hoping that this season ends on a high note, which I'm sure it will, because in terms of story and writing in every other direction of all these seasons, I feel like they've always been doing like a really good job at that. So I definitely have some high anticipation for this.
A part of me, I want to say I thought that I heard that they had at least 5 or 6 seasons planned for Stranger Things. So I feel like storyline wise, the showrunners probably have know how they want their show to certainly end. So I'm not really so much worried about that. And considering the fact that, like, I know Netflix tends to cancel shows. I don't want to say prematurely, but they do tend to cancel shows like after 3 seasons, and they're like, all right, you guys are good. but I feel like they know exactly what they have on their hands when it comes to something like Stranger Things. And I think just based off of how many people love the show, maybe Netflix really is going to allow these showrunners to tell the story that they certainly want. Like, I'm definitely under the um assumption that season 4 is not the last season. I could be highly mistaken, but I would not be surprised if we at least get ourselves one more. Have you heard anything that season 4 is the end though? I haven't heard anything like that though.
I can't remember where I heard it from, but I thought I heard that season 4 was supposed to be the last. I could be wrong though.
Okay. Well, regardless, I know that I have heard that they did have at least storyline plots for like five or six seasons. But who knows what they've reworked or how they want to retell their story. So who certainly knows? But I feel confident at least that they'll end the story certainly where they definitely want to. But I'm super eager for this. I really am. I am with you in the sense that season 1 to me is still my favorite. It got a little bit off the tracks in season 2, especially when they started including like Seven's sister and things like that, like her siblings or whatever the case may be. I did like the story of her trying to discover her mom and things like that. But there are aspects to season 2 I wasn't the biggest fan of. So for me, at least, season 3 was a really great rebound. And it was cool getting the opportunity to see those kids even more grown than what we've seen them to be from the first season, seeing them get older, getting more comfortable with themselves, on screen together, the chemistry, they everything just seemingly works really well. But considering where we left off in season 3, season 4 feels like it could be a really big departure from what we've certainly come to know and love. Because didn't some of them wind up moving out of the town, if I'm not mistaken, also?
Yeah, essentially, Will and his mom ended up moving away, but they also adopted 11. So
11,
she's
right?
so she moved out with them. So the characters are once again going to be separated, but it just pretty much a lot of people are worried in that sense, but I'm not, because it just means you get you get different side plots going on. But of course,
until they're going to
converge, just like the other 3 seasons, they're all going to converge at the end. So I think in that sense, it'll be kind of interesting to see where they go with both storylines, more than likely. And I really hope it's not as bad as it was in season 2. I'm assuming with 11 being like out of the town, we're going to have her running into the same characters that she ran into in season 2. I just hope it's not as badly written as it was in season 2. Because, that was definitely, I'm kind of with them. I think it's safe to say the majority of Stranger Things fans and saying that was probably the weakest writing in the show, essentially.
Yeah, I feel like that's probably where I hear a lot of their complaints from, honestly, too, was from that particular season. So for me, I think the separation of everybody here really gets me excited to see what they're going to be doing. Seeing how that everybody really is going to be in their, in their own areas, their own particular storylines, seeing where they've moved to. I do want to see how that dynamic winds up changing this season, certainly going forward. We're going to have, David Harbour out in freaking Russia somewhere. So it should be a pretty vast season for Stranger Things, and I can't wait to see how it all kind of ties together and comes together. A part of me is hoping that season 4 is not the last. Give me a season 5 and 6, please, if you can. But as long as you know where you're certainly going with the story, regardless, I'll be more than fine. But guys, we want to know your levels of excitement in regards to this. Now that season 4 has resumed production, I would assume maybe we wind up getting this maybe summer of 2021. Who certainly knows? I have no idea. I don't believe that they've made an announcement on the release date. Let me see if I'm trying to look at the article to see if they had a release date attached to it, but I'm not seeing one, at least in the article itself. But hopefully going forward, guys, there'll be no more production delays, and we'll get it in next year. Next year's turning out to be a great season, a great year, man, for movies and television series. So I cannot wait to see what we get.
They got to make up for the previous year, obviously.
For real, man, for real. I mean, is 2021 going to end up being like one of our favorite seasons of movies and TVs? Like, I mean, goodness, I will say this. I'm actually thinking about doing an article or like an editorial video, Stuart, on how 2020 has probably been one of our I feel like one of our biggest years when it comes to the most outlandish announcements that we've ever had. From Michael Keaton returning as Batman and the Flashpoint, hell, to having Ben Affleck return. I mean, I just feel like some of these announcements we've gotten for 2020 has been so crazy. I never would have thought that we would have gotten half of these, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm. I would actually agree with that. Not only in terms of announcements, but in terms of and I can say 2020 because even though it started in 2019, it did conclude in 2020 in terms of like just seeing some things in television that we never thought we'd saw, like the Ezra Miller's Flash being on the CW Flash for like a cameo.
Yeah, I mean, just stuff that we never thought we'd ever see, man, is happening before our very eyes. Like the term "never say never" has never been more relevant these days. So if somebody tells me somebody's coming back, I'm like, you know what? Hey, man, it could happen at this point. You never know.
Yeah.
But guys, let us know. It's been a crazy year for 2020, but Stranger Things has picked up its production, so we certainly should be getting our season 4 next year. But at the end of the day, we want to know your thoughts. What's your levels of excitement for the upcoming season? Let us know your thoughts in the live chat or the comment section box below. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and tackle our very last story today, and we're going to stick with Netflix, man. Netflix has a ton of news coming out this week in regards to the television series, because they do have some amazing television series. Now, a television series that was not their own to begin with, but started out originally on YouTube's premiere was, in fact, Cobra Kai. It is, in fact, a series that I have to admit I certainly slept on, which is surprising for a kid like me that grew up in the 80s that loved Ralph Macchio as Daniel LaRusso in the Karate Kid films. I watched the entire trilogy. I try and forget about the Hilary Swank Karate Kid version also. I like to just MIB that from my memory, if you will. But I'm a huge Karate Kid fan. So the fact that I didn't even give Cobra Kai a chance, I'm a little bit upset at myself for, honestly. And maybe the fact that I just didn't feel like paying for a YouTube Premiere service to also watch some of these television series. But I will say this. I think one of the smartest moves that YouTube and Cobra Kai certainly did was move from YouTube over to Netflix. Now it's certainly getting the recognition that it certainly deserves, getting a ton of eyes on it, ladies and gentlemen. We know we have ourselves a 3rd season on the way, but listen up, guys. We also have ourselves a 4th season that's coming. That's right. This comes to us from from comingsoon.net, letting us know that Cobra Kai gets an early season 4 renewal at Netflix ahead of its 2021 return. So it says Netflix has officially renewed the Karate Kid sequel series Cobra Kai for a 4th season after over a month since the first 2 seasons launched on the streamer. This announcement also came with the release of a new teaser for the upcoming 3rd season, hinting at Miguel's fate after I don't want to spoil that so much. So set to make its highly anticipated return on January 8th of 2021. And then, of course, they have the video down below for us to certainly watch. So before season 4 even makes his appearance, we wind up having ourselves, before even season 3 makes its appearance, we have a season 4 coming right behind it also. And I think that just really speaks to how good of a show that it is, to be quite honest with you. I mean, just seeing the idea of a returning Daniel LaRusso has been brilliant. I've honestly loved what they've been able to do with this show so far. And I can't wait. Stuart, let me ask you, have you watched Cobra Kai? And if so, what has your thoughts been on the season so far? And are you excited at the idea that, hey, we haven't even gotten season 3 yet, and we're already going to be getting ourselves a 4th one?
Yeah, I freaking love Cobra Kai, honestly. Yeah, like you, I'm also a real big fan of the Karate Kid trilogy. And I thought when the show was announced, I was worried because I thought it was a joke, at first. And then when I kind of like saw a trailer, I thought, oh, okay, must be like a one-off, like fan-made short film or something like that. But then, kind of realizing, oh, this is an actual series coming to YouTube. Okay, I'll give it a chance. But I thought, like, the idea of them doing like the big thing that a lot of fans always kind of joke about, which is the idea that Johnny is the real hero in Karate Kid, Daniel was actually the bully, and turning that into a TV show. I thought the idea of taking like an internet joke and making a whole show out of that seemed like a terrible idea. So I went into the show with very low expectations, and I was really impressed because well, yeah, they do have kind of that joke play out, like at one point where Johnny like tells his side of the story of Karate Kid 1. And essentially, yeah, he does kind of tell it in the same way where the internet tells it, in the sense of, you know, he kind of plays the victim in a little bit. They don't like play the entire series out like that. Like, definitely in the first episode, Daniel comes off as, you know, the role reversal being a thing now. Like now Daniel is kind of a bully. Johnny's kind of more of a victim in the beginning of the show, but it's not because like Daniel's trying to be a jerk or anything. It's just one of those things where Daniel was a lot more successful than Johnny, and he's waving it in his face without realizing it. He's being a total jerk without actually realizing that he's being a jerk. He's not even, the entire time, he's not even trying to be a jerk. He's actually trying to be very friendly to Johnny. It's just really hard to watch because, you know, that's not how it comes off at all. It comes off as, oh, look at me, I'm successful, you live in a shitty apartment, all that kind of stuff. But you know, it's great because they don't play either character off as like a good guy or a bad guy. Essentially, both characters are extremely flawed in their own ways, and they both want to overcome those flaws. You know, and you have Johnny who's trying to reopen Cobra Kai, and at first he's doing it, you know, trying to make it exactly how it was before, because it kind of comes to that that idea of toxic nostalgia, where you remember, you focus so much on the past, on the things you loved about it, that you tend to forget about what doesn't work about the past at all. And that's what Johnny does a lot in this, is he reminisces on the past that he loved. And I feel like Daniel kind of does this too in his own like way. And that's why they both kind of reopen up their dojos. So there's a lot of that, and you even have like in the second season, I don't want to spoil too much, or I won't spoil anything about the second season, but essentially Johnny does try to change that part of Cobra Kai. He does try to change like the toxic part of Cobra Kai, but still tries to keep the spirit of what he loved about Cobra Kai alive. And he discovers that that's not exactly an easy thing to do. It's really hard to take something that you loved that was filled with so much like bad toxicness, but trying to keep that with that, keep the spirit of it without the toxicity. You know, there's a challenge to that, and that's all I'm going to say, because I if I keep talking, I'm going to spoil everything. So yes, short answer, yes, I am really excited that the show is getting 2 more seasons, and Adam, you definitely should check this show out when you have a chance.
Oh well, I have started on Cobra Kai. Yeah, I'm actually in the middle of season 2 as of right now. So I did start it because trust me, I had AJ or Bacon and Sushi for the longest time, like hassling me about it. Like, you got to give it a chance, you got to give it a shot. And and like you, Stuart, you know, when it was first announced, I thought it was like, oh, this is a joke, right? Like, it's just going to be like this one-off series, you know, one season. We're just bringing in Ralph Macchio. Like, I didn't know he did too much as far as an acting career after Karate Kid, right? So the idea of even bringing Ralph Macchio back, some of these actors, I'm like, they're probably not doing too much anyway. This is a cool little fan film that they want to, fan series that they want to go ahead and put together. But then after it airs, and then you realize it's picked up for a season 2, then I'm like, okay, they're actually taking this seriously. Like, they actually have like real intentions for this series. And I had been meaning to go ahead and watch it when they announced season 2, and I never got around to it. Again, probably because I just didn't feel like paying for YouTube at the time. But the fact that it moved over to Netflix, it was just sitting there taunting me like, Adam, you got to watch us. You got to watch us. But you're right. Like, the idea that this series is kind of based off of the idea of seeing things from Johnny's point of view, like the whole running joke and gag of like you said, Johnny being the hero and Daniel sort of being the villain. It is funny to kind of see just that story in his eyes. Like, I even, to be honest with you, like, me and my girlfriend decided we were going to go ahead and watch Cobra Kai. And I think when we first started this series, before we knew it, we looked up and we're like 4 episodes in, and we're looking at each other. We're like, damn, I didn't expect this series to be that good. Like, we're literally invested in it. And next thing you know, we're like 6 episodes in. And what makes it great is like, they're not long episodes. They're not like 45-minute long episodes and stuff. They definitely do vary, but it's enough just to tell the story that they want to tell. They usually leave you on some great sort of cliffhangers that make you want to come back and see what's going to happen going forward. And I think this series does such a good job also of keeping those elements of what made the 80s movies certainly so great. You know, aspects of keeping Johnny sort of trapped in that 80s mindset, if you will. Just some of the things here or there that they kind of pay homage to from the previous movies. They still allow that kind of cheese factor in there, but they don't go too overboard. And I love just the perspective that they wind up giving both of these characters. Like you said, I know Daniel can come across as a dick sometimes, but he definitely doesn't mean to come across. Like, I just think it's these two characters that are in two completely different aspects of their life, still trying to learn about each other, if you will, but also still holding on to some of those I don't want to say stereotypes, but those same mindsets that they had about each other in the past, and really having to watch them overcome how they viewed each other. And there's something really fascinating about that, especially when you start getting into Johnny's personal life and how Daniel's now kind of connected to Johnny in a weird way. Like, there's so many interesting elements that I think they've done such a great job with, that if you think Cobra Kai is probably cheesy and hokey, you're probably missing the point of this series. And if you have been thinking about checking it out, please do yourselves a favor, especially if you were big fans of the Karate Kid series. I just think they've done a great job of taking those characters, developing them to where they are in their current days, and seeing them having to overcome some of their own trials and failures that they've had to deal with for the past 30-something years from back in the 80s. I think it's just amazing storytelling what they've been able to do with some of these characters, honestly.
Yeah, definitely.
And going back also to the Allie, the girlfriend, I do love the scene in season 1 where Johnny and Daniel share a drink with one another, and they start talking about their past exes or that past situation with Allie. Because I've always said, listen, I don't think Johnny clearly comes across as the villain in Karate Kid 1, but the villain to me was Allie all along. And I'm glad that I think she was the problem, and I'm glad that they even brought that up. I think even Daniel drops like the B word or something like that. Like, I love the fact that they both like just get on their ex at one point in this series. I thought it was well deserved, honestly.
The main villain, the person I always saw as the villain in Karate Kid, and I'm not even making a joke here, it's like legit he's legit a horrible person, was Kreese. And I don't know if it's been spoiled for, I don't want to say anything actually, just in case you don't know, but like, yeah, I'll say that he's always been the villain to me in Karate Kid, because Johnny himself, when you get a lot of his flashbacks, when you realize that he didn't have like an actual like father growing up, like he had a stepdad, but that stepdad was such an asshole to him. It wasn't really a father figure. The closest thing he had to one was Kreese. But the problem is that Kreese, had that vibe of and he might have cared for him in his own, like, screwed up kind of way, but he was such a horrible influence on Johnny. And that's why Johnny kind of came off the way that he did. You get the vibe, especially watching Cobra Kai, that Kreese is kind of the reason Johnny came out the way that he did.
Yeah, you're definitely right there. I mean, he definitely is a villain. And I was really saying the Allie thing jokingly, but yeah, definitely Allie certainly put that wrench in between everybody. But but you're right. Kreese definitely had made his impact for sure. And I love how they've been utilizing him so far in the series. But overall, definitely something that I slept on, but I've slept on it no more. I am in the middle of season 2. I cannot wait for season 3, honestly. And the fact that it's getting a 4th season means that they're certainly tapping into something. I will say this: if there is anything about this series that I am not a fan of, and I am passionately not a fan of this, Stuart, and me and my girlfriend had this conversation when we were watching a little bit of it yesterday, I do not like Daniel LaRusso's his training, the kid that he's training. And I don't want to give spoilers away as to who he is or how he's connected to people, but I just don't see the chemistry there. Like I feel like when I look at Johnny and the kid that he's training, there feels like there's such an emotional connection there that these two characters just get each other. But when I look at Daniel's person that he's training, I just it just feels like a huge disconnect there for me. Like I know that the kid's intentions of originally joining up with Daniel probably wasn't pure, but as he winds up training with Daniel, you can clearly see that, yeah, he is truly becoming his student. But I just do not like the chemistry between these two on screen. It's always cringeworthy to me at times. He almost reminds me of, like, I don't want to say like Mary Sue, but like somebody that like he just picks up on everything so quickly. You know what I'm saying? Like he's mastering stuff. He's like the perfect student Daniel could ask for. I just do not like that vibe and just the way that him and Daniel get along. I'm like, did this kid do screen testing with Ralph Macchio beforehand? Like, what went into this kid's casting? I'm just not a fan of it, honestly. That's what takes me out of the episodes from time to time.
It I didn't mind it in season 2. But in season 1, I definitely see what you get, because it definitely felt very forced, because I don't know. It definitely felt like the way they were writing his character in the beginning, and then where he like kind of ended up like halfway through season 1, really felt rushed. Like, and I'm not saying super like, like I'm all for character development and characters changing, but it almost like didn't feel like he changed. It felt like he became a completely different character. They didn't really have time to, they had an idea in mind of how they wanted to develop his character. I just don't think they developed it the correct way. They kind of jumped to where they wanted him to be rather than just having it happen like naturally. So I definitely do kind of see what you mean there. But for me personally, and maybe it's because I had like that, I was watching the show when it was coming out, like 1 week at a time. And so when I had like a year before season 2 came out, I did probably like, forget like how fast his character went from point A to point B. So I think I had just been used to seeing him at point B. So when I see him with in season 2, it didn't really bother me as much.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right there, because I am seeing him develop a little bit differently here in season 2, especially getting a little bit closer with Daniel's daughter and stuff. So it should be interesting to see what happens, guys. But I am looking really, really forward to this for season 4. So, guys, if you've been on the fence about Cobra Kai, do yourselves a favor, go ahead and certainly check it out. I mean, me and the girlfriend may go on another Karate Kid binge. We actually watched season 1. We actually watched the first one again and then jumped into the Cobra Kai series. But I come to find out she had not seen, or it's been years since she's seen the second one, and she didn't even know that there was a third one. She thought the Hilary Swank one was a third one. So I'm like, we're going to go back and do some Karate Kid movie watching also. So we'll see what happens.
Fingers are still crossed that we get Terry in season 3.
Terry?
The guy that Kreese hires in the third movie.
Oh yes, he's got to pop up in here, man. With all the nostalgia that we've had so far in this season, if not in season 3, at least in season 4, they got to have Terry kind of come through, because I was wondering what happened to him. He always reminded me, like, Karate Kid the third one came out in like the 90s, and you knew it came out in the 90s because of the fact that this Terry had the slick hair back. That was like the 90s look back in the day, right? Like that Steven Seagal look, the slick black hair into the ponytail type of thing. It was all over in the 90s. So yeah, I definitely want Terry back. And who knows, hey, can we get ourselves a Hilary Swank appearance too, please? Like, that would be great. Like, even though I didn't like that movie, considering the fact that doesn't Mr. Miyagi trains her, right? I didn't like the movie, but heck, I throw Hilary Swank in there, man. She was just on a Netflix series in Away, which I highly recommend. Go ahead and do that.
I will point this out. So, oh God, I think this was 2 years ago now. When I was at WonderCon, and there was a panel for Cobra Kai season 2 coming out. So it had the actor for Johnny, and it had the actor for Kreese there, and it also had one of the show writers. One of the questions that kept coming up are characters like Terry and her character from the next Karate Kid, and they were asking, so when are these characters going to be showing up? Are they showing up? Do they even exist in this show? And one of the big things that the showrunner showrunners did say is that yes, all 4 Karate Kid movies are canon. You don't have to.
I believe
you don't have to worry about us being like, oh, we didn't like these movies, so they don't count. No, everything is canon. Whether or not we bring it in is still in question, but it is all still canon.
That's cool. At least they're not like retconning anything, because sometimes you'll have those movies that come in between other movies in the sequel, and they're like, we're just going to pretend like those movies just didn't exist. Okay, but so I like that idea. I mean, not confirming that, hey, we're going to be bringing them in, but at least letting us know it's all taking place in the same universe. I think that's pretty cool. So for me, that tells me we're bringing in Terry and Hilary Swank. he may not have confirmed anything, but I'm definitely looking forward to seeing him bring them in for sure. We'll see what happens though. So yeah, guys, at the end of the day, we definitely want to know your thoughts. Now that Cobra Kai is getting a 4th season, what are your thoughts in regards to it? How have you liked this series? Go ahead and let me know your thoughts in the live chat or the comment section box below, ladies and gentlemen. And with that will go ahead and actually wrap up all of our topics here this week. So if anything, we could probably jump into some live viewer questions now. And if anything, we can just jump into the comment section and see what we wind up having here.
All right.
Go ahead and transition over into some of the comments. AJ says, Cobra Kai, love this show so much. Even watched the original films after watching season 2. Yeah, the Hilary Swank version was mad. So did you watch Cobra Kai first and then go back? I'm kind of curious if you had seen them prior to that or not. Doomsday already fallen in love with Iman Vellani. Hey Adam, just wanted to hop in here for a second to say that the girl cast for Miss Marvel ain't bad looking. He already got himself a crush.
This not sure how they would pull this off, but it would be funny if Jaden Smith's Karate Kid was canon.
Oh yeah, I don't think they're gonna be pulling that off, because he does. I think he did ask a question of like, does anybody like? He says, does anybody like Jaden Smith's Karate Kid? I was actually a really big fan of it, to be honest with you. One, I'm a huge fan for Jackie Chan. If there is anybody that I thought was perfect for having that Mr. Miyagi role, it's definitely Jackie Chan. The action I thought was great, and Jaden Smith, who I don't remember if that was his first movie or if he had done, I think he already did Pursuit of Happiness already prior to this. But I love Jaden Smith in this film. I think the fact that he actually trained with Jackie Chan for this movie, I thought was brilliant, and it honestly really showcased itself so well in that movie. There's a great scene where there's like a training montage for Jaden Smith, and at the end, homeboy's literally doing a split across this banister that's like outside on the top of this building. He's doing the split in this pose. I mean, Jaden Smith did all these moves himself. I mean, the fact that even a kid at that young age, that Jackie Chan put him through that kind of training, I thought was marvelous to kind of see what Jaden Smith was able to do. And I thought it was still a really heartfelt story. The idea of this kid being transplanted from his home, being put into a place where now he's got to conform, if you will, right? Make friends, fit in, things like that. Having the fight against the bully. I thought it was really, really well done for a remake of the original Karate Kid series. What did you think about the Jaden Smith movie, though?
I really enjoyed it. Although, if I'm being totally honest, if you had asked me when I first saw it, I think I kind of had that douchey, oh, it's not the original kind of attitude. So I definitely wasn't a fan of it when I first saw it in theaters, but definitely watching it years later, being a lot more mature with the mindset of, okay, it's not supposed to be the original Karate Kid. The whole point is that it's its own film. Yeah, I actually thought it was a really good movie.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I'm glad that you like this story. Let's see here. Jessica Fryman has a question. She says, what would you like to see in Supergirl's final season? Because yes, the 6th and final season of Supergirl is set to air in 2021. What would I like to see in Supergirl? First and foremost, I definitely want to see a closure to their story. I definitely feel as though the showrunners, for the most part, now that they know that they have the final season, they'll probably wrap it up accordingly. I want to see. Stuart, I've said this before. I really want to see them somehow leave breadcrumbs for a potential Legion of Superheroes television series. Like for me, I think it would be cool if somehow Supergirl either makes the decision to go to the 31st century, maybe Mon-El comes back for her. I don't know. I want to see Supergirl make a really big decision for her life that would maybe explain why she's not around anymore or in this particular universe, right? Like it would be weird if we're not going to have a Supergirl show and then yet the Arrowverse still continues, right? Because and then just think that hey, Supergirl is still out there somewhere, but she's just not showing up, right? So like for me, it would be cool. Like if you want to take away that mystery of where Supergirl is, transplant her into the 31st century and make it a mystery. Like I said, maybe Mon-El returns for her. Maybe she gets thrown into that time period. Maybe she leaves with Brainiac in them, and maybe they decide to kind of go back. I personally would love to see a spinoff of Legion of Superheroes, but that's just me with some wishful thinking, I think. But yeah, and then hopefully a really good ending for Alex. You know, I don't know if Alex is a character that CW would look at her and be like, you know what, we need to do more with her character and move her somewhere else. So if there is anything for Alex, I would like to see her have some closure. You know, one of the storylines that they haven't tackled so much is the idea of Alex being a mother. You know, she wanted to adopt kids a while back and start a family. A part of me would like to kind of see her eventually do that. Or maybe start her own organization now that she's outside of the DEO. There's a lot of potential of things I certainly would like to see. What would you like to see in the season finale for Supergirl, though?
Definitely Alex having a family of her own. I also would agree with you with the 31st century aspect of maybe like Supergirl joins the Legion at the very end. Especially because, yeah, I do think her and Mon-El were a great couple within the show. And it felt like the only reason they didn't continue that was because, like, probably the actor from Mon-El had other projects or something like that. But I would love to see, like, maybe them go back together and go to the 31st century together. Maybe because like there's probably some weird explanation that Mon-El can't leave the 31st century, but Supergirl can still go there, and maybe they actually need her help there. You know, so something so she's not like gone completely from the show, but she does have like closure for her whole thing, and you know, she's not worried about leaving anyone behind because she also knows that you know there's a Superman, so you know she's not worried about like leaving things completely unopened. But yeah, I think those would be like the two main things. Is I guess the main thing is that I would want like closure to the extent of I don't want any left open cliffhangers, but at the same time I also do want it to be somewhat open-ended so we know that we could still get these characters to come back for possibly future events, like future crossovers type things.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like I said, John Cryer as Lex Luthor, please manage to kind of keep him around a little bit. That would be great. And the other character I would like to have kept around, and I think you would agree, is that David Harewood is Martian Manhunter in some capacity. Heck, maybe he takes her spot on the Justice League going forward. He's just as deserving.
With John Cryer as Lex Luthor, they could keep him in all the CW shows for like a small role. Like they wouldn't even need him to necessarily make a physical appearance. Just have him reference, just have him become the president and have him do like small things that interfere with all the shows. Like, like the biggest one.
That would be great for this season.
I think this would be great for Black Lightning season 4. He pardons Odell.
Yo, that would be crazy. And listen, Stuart, that's one of the things that we talked about too, especially from last season, was because we've mentioned the idea that it feels like with Lex Luthor trying to gain so much power in the previous season, it feels like he still has himself sort of a bigger plan in mind. And one of the bigger plans that we've always talked about is the seat at the White House. Is that there's a huge storyline in the comic books of Lex Luthor being the president. So for me, at least, this season would be as perfect time as ever for John Cryer to be trying to be a part of the presidential election and trying to get nominated. And I think that would be a really great send-off for his character to actually win the White House, and then afterwards just know that he's just this character that's looming over everybody in the Arrowverse. I really like that idea, Stuart. So him getting into the White House to answer Jessica's question, what we'd like to see in the season finale, add that Lex Luthor in the White House storyline to it. Why not? Why not?
Definitely.
Real quick here, going back to HBO Max a little bit, Watchmen, according to Gabriel, Watchmen is also a good series on HBO, which, mind you, Watchmen did in fact win an Emmy this year. I believe, if I'm not even Watchmen, but also Regina King, who was in there as well, and the gentleman that wound up playing Dr. Manhattan, I believe either won or was nominated for an Emmy as well. But Watchmen definitely got some recognition at the Emmys for how great of a series it is. So great suggestion, Gabriel, as well. It's a series that honestly I feel like I've been trying to push onto people. Like, if you have not watched Watchmen, please do yourself a favor and certainly do.
I literally this last year watched the show 3 times, because the first time was supposed to be just me watching it for the first time, like on my own. And then after watching it, I'm like, I got to get my dad into the show. So, I was able to convince him to watch it, so I watched it with him. But it took me forever. But I finally had just a couple of weeks ago convinced my girlfriend to watch it too. So I ended up watching it a 3rd time with her. And each time there's always just something so cool that I always notice when it comes to foreshadowing. Like, it's a show you could tell they knew exactly where they were going from beginning to end, because there's so many like small details, small one-lines that end up playing like a huge part like later on. Lines I won't say because they'd be spoilers.
Yeah, and that's Damon Lindelof's just sort of storytelling, man. I mean, if you go back to some of his other series and like Lost, I mean, he definitely has that type of mentality when it comes to telling his stories. But it's always fascinating to me that this is just a one-off series, very much a limited series, if you will. There's really no plans for a second season. Damon told the story that he wanted, and boom, he got out. And it's bringing high praise right now. So definitely go ahead and check out The Watchmen if you can. I probably want to go back and rewatch it myself, honestly. Like, it's that good. So I might have to do that too, Stuart, and take your advice and grab my girlfriend and be like, hey, let's watch this show together. I think you might like it, just so that I can watch it again at least. But yeah, thank you for that suggestion, Gabriel.
All right. So the first part of this, I'm just not going to answer because we kind of already went over in the beginning. Yeah,
as of right now, I think that he's the same character from Amazing Spider-Man, but as of right now, you don't think that he is. You think he's just going to be a different iteration of that character, right?
Pretty much, yeah. But I could, at the same time, I could.
Yeah, we can see both ways. Yeah, I can definitely see it too.
Favorite martial arts films as a kid, either.
What are some of your guys' favorite martial arts films as a kid? Well,
Bruce Lee.
So yeah, I mean, either Jackie Chan, Jet Li, Donnie Yen, or even the legendary Bruce Lee. Finally, what are Stuart's and Indy's thoughts on the new Dino Fury news? Okay, so let's get to so we did the Jamie. See, you got me doing the Jamie Lee Foxx thing too. What are some of your guys' favorite martial arts film growing up as a kid? Well, my first introduction to Jackie Chan, and it's a movie that still holds true to my heart, is Rumble in the Bronx. That was like one of my first Jackie Chan movies that I actually saw, that my uncle took me into the theaters and actually saw it on the big screen. And probably my first introduction, I don't want to say my first introduction to martial arts movies, but Americanized martial arts. I mean, I'm pretty sure I don't know if it was produced. I don't know how they did it. It was probably filmed over there and then just subbed in English out here, and they just kind of brought it to the States. But it was my first look at Jackie Chan, the idea of not only martial arts, but able to do martial arts with props the way that Jackie Chan does. And it just opened up my eyes even more to the idea of martial arts and what you can certainly do with it. And I became a huge Jackie Chan fan from that moment on. So Jackie Chan's Rumble in the Bronx was great. Legends of the Drunken Master that he was in was incredible. Also, I love seeing him in that. Bruce Lee, just the traditional, Enter the Dragon. There's another one where he was in Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I can't remember the name of it, where he has to go through like these different levels to order to get to
Game of Death.
The Game of Death, yeah,
Yeah.
that was always a great one. Just a classic, yellow jumpsuit with the nunchucks that inspired Kill Bill's Uma Thurman's costume and things like that. So those are some growing up as a kid that really jumped out at me. But my first experience was definitely Jackie Chan's Rumble in the Bronx for sure.
Man, I actually haven't seen that one, but Drunken Master with Jackie Chan, I love that film. When it I gotta be honest though, I haven't seen that many Jet Li movies, and that definitely needs to change.
I mean, like I've never been a big fan of like just Jet. Like I think he had, was it Hero? I think was probably one of my favorite Jackie Chan. I mean, Jet Li movies. Definitely more on the artistic side of things. Felt more like a Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. That's another movie that really kind of changed martial arts also for me growing up. But yeah, Jet Li. He had the Hero, which jumped out at me. But yeah, I've never been super impressed with Jet Li movies. He had the One, I think, when he was like facing off against a version of himself. That was, you know. And he had another one with Aaliyah, I think. I can't remember what it was called though. Great soundtrack with DMX on it, if I'm not mistaken, in Timberland. But yeah, how about you, Donnie Yen? You have any favorite Donnie Yen movies?
Oh, definitely
Ip Man
love
stuff, right?
the Ip Man series.
Yeah.
And for Bruce Lee, definitely got to go to Enter the Dragon is probably my favorite of all the Bruce Lee movies. Oh man, I had another one on my mind before. Oh, and then this isn't a movie, but he's actually not bad in the Green Hornet too.
Ooh, yes, Kato. Good callback. Good callback. But thanks for that question, AJ. I appreciate it. We don't get a chance to talk martial arts too much on here, but yeah, as a kid, Jackie Chan was my shit back in the day, just because he was just so fun and just so incredibly talented, man. I'd never seen somebody. The fact that he did his own stunts too was just always blew my mind, man. Like if you go down and YouTube and just find yourself down a rabbit hole of Jackie Chan stunt reels or like stunt performance, just seeing some of the stuff that this guy's put his body through, I'm surprised that he's still walking, honestly, to this day. I mean, Rush Hour was even a great film with him and Chris Tucker, but yeah, man. I love seeing all these. Give me martial arts all day long. I'll eat it up. And then he also says, what's your thoughts, Stuart, on the Dino Fury news? And I'm assuming he meant, I'm assuming the trailer also. It feels like did he connect? Continuing with his comment. I guess not.
I mean, I really, it was a teaser, gave, very little about it, but I'm okay with that. It gave us exactly what we expected with the tease. The casting though, all of them I think are mostly newcomers. Like they only have each of them only have a few projects under the belt, but for the most part they all look like essentially they all have the look down perfectly, and they seem like they're eager for the role. So I'm definitely excited for that. I've seen a few of them posting some fan art that was done of their characters on social media. So I do like that they're very enthusiastic about their roles, and they're not just treating it as like a whatever type thing.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you there, man. I'm excited for them. I really am. I can't wait to see what they have in store for us. I think there's going to be a pretty good cast. I don't know too much about Kai Moya, who's the Blue Ranger. I feel like if there's anybody maybe on the group that maybe not as experienced acting wise, it's probably him. But I know Hunter Deno definitely has had some work, very athletic. I've seen her action reels. She looks great. Like she can definitely be a star in Power Rangers. And Russell Curry is as talented as they come. So I think, especially as a Red Ranger, I think that's a really strong casting choice of there. So we'll see what happens though. Bacon and Sushi also says the actor of Terry, actually teased coming back for the Cobra Kai series. He was asked on his Instagram. I hope they pull the trigger, man. It feels like it would only be coming full circle, honestly, to get Terry and even the Hilary Swank's character in there also at some point in time. But I was literally just thinking that yesterday. I was like, I wonder if they would ever bring back that villain from from Karate Kid 3. So bring him on, man. Bring him on. Let's see. Bacon Sushi also says, is it true the CW show's production have been paused again because of cases? I haven't heard anything in regards to anything new developing. If anything, I've heard that they're back in production now. I think with I think there might be a couple series that might not be going into production until more mid to late October. So not all of the shows are back into production as of yet, but I know some of them certainly are. But I haven't heard any new cases of them having to pause production. Have you?
No. I hope it's not true. But I mean, but then again, if there are cases, I hope they are actually shutting down and doing what needs to be done.
Yeah, I mean, if there are certain cases, for sure, most definitely. Let's see here. This comes to Shadow Nova. Oh, I'm sorry.
I didn't, that was my bad. I think I accidentally.
Okay. Yeah, I think we were both about to pull it up. It says, "Don't." Shadow Nova says, "Don't know if you guys have seen it, but have you seen The Boys? I'm so obsessed with it." We definitely both have. What are your thoughts, Stuart, on it?
I've been loving season 2 so far. Yeah, I saw season 1, which was great, and season 2's just been going like more and more over the top in like all the greatest ways. I actually was going to ask you this after the show, but I might as well ask you live. Do you think you and Indy and I would be we would be down if like the three of us wanted to review season 2 together? Since we kind of missed out on doing the individual episodes, just reviewing it all as a whole.
Oh, as a whole, yeah, we can do it after the season wraps. I'll be down for that. Cool, I'm pretty sure we'll get ourselves a third season too, so maybe we can add The Boys reviews to our channel for the third season. There's so much. There's definitely a ton of content out there, man, that we definitely would love to add to the show. But yeah, The Boys certainly could be one of them. I mean, goodness, they have a spinoff show that's certainly coming. Also, we haven't watched this week's episode yet. They did have a brand new episode that dropped on Friday. Me and the girlfriend will probably watch that later on tonight. But yeah, I've really have been enjoying what they've been doing so far. And I gotta tell you, man, Homelander scares the hell out of me, bro. Like I know just because of the fact that I know how crazy and demented this guy is. Like he's just that loose cannon. Like when Homelander arrives on this show and you immediately see everybody's asshole clinch up, you immediately like if he to have that type of effect on people, you just know that this guy can just do anything at any minute and nobody can stop him. And there is something inherently terrifying about that notion, honestly. Like I don't want to give anything away, but you know, the scene where Homelander maybe like a couple episodes ago when he's trying to defend himself in front of that huge crowd of people that are like booing him and stuff, and then just the action that he thinks about taking to some of those civilians and stuff, terrifying, bro. But the fact that he could do that if he wanted to is what terrifies me. So I feel like there's an immediate tension on the screen whenever Homelander pops up in a scene, whether it's something that he's with people that are familiar with him or just people that are, you know, are super suspicious. And you're like, does Homelander know what's going on? Like, who's this guy going to kill? Like, you just never know. But regardless, I've loved all the characters this season. I think it's been a great push forward for everybody from season 1 into season 2. So I've loved what they've been doing so far.
I think honestly at this point, Stormfront is becoming more terrifying because she is able to manipulate him and she knows it. She knows exactly how to manipulate him. So I think like, you know, it kind of comes down to what's scarier, the weapon, the uncontrollable weapon, or a weapon under control of someone who's also just as insane.
And what's scary to me too is that when you look at everybody else's power set, it's like it's almost like nobody comes close to what Homelander and Stormfront can do. Like how do you stop these two people? You know what I mean? Like they just seem so indestructible almost. That I think that's probably even more terrifying than anything else, honestly. So I love what they're doing with the series, guys. If you haven't watched The Boys, do yourself a favor. Amazon Prime, check out The Boys whenever you get the chance. You'll be thanking us later. Trust me. Reggie, what's up, Reggie? Reggie's in the house. Our Facebook moderator over there. Good seeing you, Reggie, coming through, man. Bacon and Sushi says that milkshake or iced coffee. Oh, it's an iced coffee. My girlfriend went out and grabbed us some coffee this morning. Give me that extra perk up. You know what I'm saying? Shadow Nova does say I love the Ip Man franchise. That's probably the only martial arts movie I really watched. Man, Shadow Nova, we got to open up your horizons, man, in regards to some martial arts movies. Definitely nothing wrong with Ip Man. I've absolutely loved it. I have not watched the 4th one on Netflix. Have you watched all of them, Stuart, or all 4 of them, or what?
Keep forgetting there's a fourth movie,
I think
but no,
it's
I saw
new.
like I saw the trilogy, but yeah, I forgot that they had a fourth one. I haven't seen that one yet.
Yeah, I haven't checked it out either, but I definitely want to. Um, Bacon and Sushi says Romeo Must Die. That's the Jet Li movie with Aaliyah. Some good action there by Jet Li. Not the best performances in the world, but I do recall that movie.
What's funny? Okay, sorry, just this will be a really short story, not long. What's funny is the only reason I know about that movie is at my church that I went to when I was really young. So my mom's like the pastor there, so every once in a while I'd have to she'd be there to work, and I'd be there too, just there doing my homework and everything. But then when I was done, there was like kind of a kids room that had like a bunch of movies that I could watch, but it would be filled with mostly like kind of the typical movies you'd expect, like Veggie type things, but there were a few just like random movies in there too. One of those movies was Romeo Must Die, and it was just really weird because most of the other movies, even the non-Christian films, were all like rated PG, so it was just like really funny seeing this like R-rated VHS tape there, like
Just in there, huh?
like in that pile. I never watched it, but yeah,
That's pretty funny. Um, Yeah, man. I definitely have seen that movie at least a handful of times growing up. But oh, you know what? I wanted to bring this up too, Stuart, and I forgot to go ahead and show this. We were talking about Iman Vellani playing Miss Marvel now. Shout out to Boss Logic for doing because he always does great artwork in regards to showcasing what the actor or actress might look like as their upcoming roles. He wound up posting this earlier this week as Iman Vellani as Miss Marvel. I thought it was just a really cool design that he wound up putting together. He did a version 2 of this photo also with her blowing bubblegum out of her mouth or something like that. But I think he does great work of being able to get these like photorealistic actors and putting them together as themselves. What do you think about this artwork though?
I think it looks awesome. Yeah, I agree. Boss Logic, all of his artwork that he's been doing, there are times where I've looked at it and I've actually had to Google if it was real or not before realizing, oh, it's a Boss Logic.
It's a Boss Logic. I definitely agree. There are plenty of times, especially on especially in our like our messenger group, when sometimes Kevin or Reggie will post something like a photo, and I'm like, is that official or is that from Boss Logic? And they always, oh, it's Boss Logic. I'm like, okay, but still, it looks so good. You would think that it was an official photo or something.
Yeah, they always look amazing.
Yeah, I definitely agree. But guys, other than that, I think that's going to do it for us here today at A Plus Hero Report. So, guys, thank you so much for certainly spending your weekend with us. We definitely appreciate it. I will let you guys know next weekend. We may be up in the air as to whether or not we have another live episode of A Plus Hero Report. I do have a pretty stacked weekend ahead of me. So, if anything, maybe some of the news articles that we review we'll post videos on our YouTube page throughout the week to kind of keep you guys a little bit posted. But if anything does change, and we do have an A Plus Hero Report for you next weekend, certainly go ahead and look out for it, and we'll definitely keep you guys posted for sure. But if anything, maybe I'll have Stuart and Indy do an episode of A Plus Hero Report on their own. We'll see what happens when we get to that bridge, though. But other than that, guys, that's definitely going to be it for us. So thank you for certainly joining us today. All your live viewer questions, all your comments, joining us for some discussions on a stacked episode this week with some great articles. But Stuart, if people want to go ahead and reach out to you, sir, on social media, where can they find you? Oh, you're muted. You're muted.
You guys can follow me at TurboStew01 on Twitter, and you can also check out my YouTube channel, Turbo Studios.
Awesome, Stuart. Awesome, Stuart. And of course, guys, listen, if you want to follow us on social media, you can go ahead and do so right here at A Plus Opinions. We're going to be on Facebook specifically, guys. That's our main hub for everything. You can also check us out on Twitter if you'd like. We're on Instagram and Twitch for you gamers as well. And then, of course, if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube page, A Plus Hero Report, APLUS Hero Report, please do yourselves a favor and go ahead and do so. Smash that subscribe button, ladies and gentlemen, and click that bell notification so that when we do drop a brand new video, you guys will certainly be notified. So until then, that's going to do it for us here today at A Plus Hero Report. So do us a big favor, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and of course, keep it A plus. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.